2 years ago, Phil Foden wasn't just good, he was the best player in England. PFA Player of the Year, Football Writers Player of the Year, Premier League Player of the Season. All three same season. People were genuinely having Ballon d'Or conversations, calling him the heir to Kevin De Bruyne. And it made sense, because this was never a normal footballer story. City scouted him at 4 years old and funded his private education, so nothing got in the way of the plan. He debuted at 17, one of our own, the fans still sing, a Stockport kid, who became the face of the most dominant club side English football has ever produced. So how in the space of about 2 years did that same player go from Ballon d'Or talk to fighting for minutes off the bench? And now at the exact moment his place in this team looks shakiest. Just sign away 4 more years of his career at the club. That's what we're getting into today. Let's set the scene first because you need to see how high this guy actually got. 2023-24, Pep Guardiola pulls him out of the wide areas he'd been stuck in for years and drops him centrally as a No 10, basically unleashed. The result was one of the great individual seasons the Premier League era has seen. Foden was City's talisman in a 4th straight title win, drew comparisons to prime KDB, and swept every domestic individual award going. For a minute it looked like City had solved football. A homegrown superstar, still only 23, sitting at the peak of the exact position Pep had built the team around. This was supposed to be the start of a 5-year reign, not the high water mark. Let's actually break this down because it isn't one story, it's 2 separate ones happening at the same time, and they made each other worse. Start with the tactical side. In 2023-24, Pep pulled Foden centrally into that No 10 role right behind the striker and let him loose. That's the version of Foden that swept every award going, but across the 2 seasons that followed, Pep gradually pushed him deeper, more of a Note 8, further from goal, more defensive recycling work, fewer touches inside the penalty area. That's a genuinely different job. A Note 10 lives off final third moments and half chances. A Note 8 lives off possession and positioning. Foden built his entire game around the first one, and for 2 years he was being asked to do the second. Then stack competition on top of that. Ryan Cherki arrived January, signing Antoine Semenyo pushed ahead of him. Omar Marmoush caught fire after AFCON. And suddenly the actual number 10 spot Foden should have owned had 3 other players fighting over it too. And Euro 2024 didn't help either, with Gareth Southgate deploying him out on the left instead of centrally, a decision Foden was publicly frustrated with afterward. Now the other half of this, the part that doesn't show up in a formation graphic, Foden has openly talked about struggling with mental and physical burnout, the kind of depletion you'd expect from someone who's been operating at the top of the world's toughest league since he was basically still a teenager. People around the club have described it as brain fog, emotional fatigue, the stuff that never shows up on a stat sheet, but absolutely shows up in body language, in decision making, in that half-second delay on the ball that separates elite from ordinary, and the 2 problems fed each other. Play worse tactically, lose confidence, get more mentally drained, get more drained, play worse tactically. By 2025-26, Foden had gone roughly 25 appearances with essentially 1 goal contribution. He was an unused substitute against Liverpool. He got 2 minutes at Tottenham. 2 years earlier, this was the best player in the country. People started drawing comparisons to Jack Grealish, another City star, who went from title winner to afterthought almost overnight. Nobody's saying Foden's checked out, there's 0 suggestion of that, but the trajectory is uncomfortably similar, and that should worry every City fan watching this. Quick pause, because if you're finding this breakdown useful, this is exactly the kind of deep dive we do every week. So if you haven't already, hit subscribe and drop a comment down below. Here's where it gets interesting. Back in May 2026, in the middle of arguably the worst form of his senior career, Foden and City agreed terms in principle on a new 4-year contract. Then, July 22nd, 2026, Manchester City officially confirmed it. Phil Foden has signed through the summer of 2030, with an option for a 5th year. Think about the timing. This isn't a deal that got rushed through in a panic. It got agreed while he was posting 1 goal contribution in 25 games, sat through Guardiola's exit and Maresca's arrival, and only now, right at the start of pre-season under a brand new manager, does it actually get signed and announced. City's director of football, Hugo Viana, framed it around Foden's continued development, and Foden himself called committing his future to the club something that means everything to him. That's a pretty clear signal from City's side. This wasn't a knee-jerk reaction to bad form, and it wasn't the club hedging while quietly shopping him around either. This was City deciding deliberately that a struggling 26-year-old academy graduate is still worth building the next era around. Whether that trust gets repaid on the pitch is a completely different question, and it's the one we're about to get into. And now here's the twist that makes this video worth making right now. Pep Guardiola has stepped down after a decade of complete dominance. City's era-defining manager is gone, and his replacement is Enzo Maresca, who left Chelsea in December to eventually take the job, with City paying compensation to get him. Here's why that matters for Foden specifically. Maresca isn't some outsider walking into a strange building. He coached City's academy sides and was Guardiola's assistant during the treble-winning run. He knows this club and this player from the inside. There's a version of this story where Maresca sees a homegrown talent who's simply been miscast for 2 years, resets him into a more advanced creative role and gets the best out of him again. City are already investing around him too. A reported deal for Elliot Anderson from Nottingham Forest shows the midfield is being actively rebuilt for this new era. But there's also a version where a new manager owes a struggling 26-year-old nothing, new coach, clean slate, no sentimentality for reputations built under someone else's system. Maresca's arrival could go either way for Foden, and honestly, that's what makes this the most interesting moment of his career since he broke through. And where does that leave him? A player who, 2 years ago, had genuinely elite status in world football, now committed on paper until 2030, but still needing a new manager who actually knows him to rebuild him from a number 8 role back into the number 10, who terrorised the Premier League. The contract buys him time, it doesn't buy him form. Maresca might be exactly the reset Foden needs, or he might be the manager who decides City's next era simply doesn't have room for him, 4-year deal, or not. Either way, this is the single biggest season of Phil Foden's career. Not his most talented season, the most important one. What do you think? Does Maresca save Foden's career at City, or does this new deal just delay the inevitable? Drop your take in the comments. I read every single one, and if you want more of this kind of deep dive football breakdown, get subscribed, because there's a lot more of this coming.